A dad is a daughter's first love.
Daddy t-shirt sets are available at daddyandcompany.com.
Hi, this is Robert Nickel, and you're watching My Life as a Dad. Today's guest is Rachel Pitzel, founder and CEO of Club Mommy. Communication is a big issue in relationships, and communicating with your spouse before you have kids and communicating with your spouse after you have kids is entirely different. So can you tell me a little bit about how you guys communicate, and then also some advice for dads of how to be responsive, or how to be helpful, or how to help mom in the transition point when now you have the kids and the dad's used to the old way, but now he has a new way and he's kind of confused.
I will say communication, I think, is the toughest issue after you have a baby, just because you are sleep deprived and you're so busy and you don't get that time, you don't get any of that time one-on-one to yourself. And so a lot of times your responses tend to be kind of through a little bit of gritted teeth. You might be a little bit short and snappy and you don't intend to, and you don't even realize what you're doing. And I think it can build up a lot of resentment. But I think it's really kind of trying to understand their needs and trying to kind of anticipate what they're going through, and also really trying not to take things personally, because sometimes you just kind of say things or you do certain things, your actions might be a little bit tense, but the person has nothing to do with you. They might have just had a tough day, maybe they're extremely exhausted, but just really paying attention to what you say, kind of how you say it, and then trying not to take things personally, I think is super important.
What about a topic that's on a lot of guys' minds all the time, which is getting intimate? And,
sex after
and
baby.
having sex, yeah. So when does that occur? Or if the guy's thinking about it, or what's a good approach or a bad approach, or is it going to happen again, or is it not going to happen until you get a third baby?
Well, if you want another baby, you do have to have sex at least once, hopefully. Right. It's a tough topic, I think, because for a woman, it's the last thing on their mind, because again, you just don't get any time to yourself, and guys have needs.
So guys is the first thing on their mind, and women is the last. So how do we reach that?
I don't even know if it's on the woman's mind. It might not even be on that radar. I think a good thing to do is to kind of start approaching it before you have baby. So maybe you can say things, and again, that's another topic even when you're pregnant. Are you gonna get sex? It can be a little bit awkward.
There's a lot of guys that are totally afraid to even do it, right?
Yeah, and
girls are uncomfortable or have health issues, or right?
Definitely, but a lot of times, sex when you're pregnant can be really amazing, and it can be a lot better than it was in other ways. So I think again, communicating and talking about it, saying this feels a little bit weird, or this is kind of going on for me, but that doesn't mean that you can't do other things to them. As a woman, you have to know that your husband has certain needs, especially if they're, really there for you, and they're doing all these things that we're talking about, and they're being that perfect dad. Well, maybe there's other ways that you can be there for your husband. So I think that is very important. And just, again, as a woman, you're just not thinking about it. It's the last thing on your mind, and it might not even register for you. So as a guy, you do kind of have to bring it up when your wife isn't extremely tired or exhausted or stressed.
Right, because you don't want to sound pushy, you don't want to sound whiny, you don't want to sound begging.
Yeah.
Have you guys talked about parenting philosophies with your kids? And do you guys, how do you come about a joint decision of how you want to parent together? So dad and mom have a joint decision.
That's a really interesting topic, because I think it's something that pretty much nobody discusses before you have a baby. I think you talk about religion and you talk about, maybe cultural and spiritual things, and that might come into it and come into play, but so much of what you think is going to happen as a parent is just not reality. I mean, I thought I was going to be more of the disciplinarian, and very regimented, and I'm the exact opposite. I'm very loose and not the disciplinarian at all. So a lot of times you think you're going to be one way. So even if you kind of have that conversation and discussion, you might need to kind of readdress it. But I think as you start, being a parent to a baby, in the beginning, again, you're just being there for their needs. You're not really parenting. But little issues start coming up, like we need some sleep. How are we gonna, sleep train baby? And so that's kind of one of the first decisions that you're gonna make is what process are you gonna do? And we thought, okay, well, we'll, our friends are having a lot of success, having baby cry it out, maybe we'll try that. So we both tried that, and it just didn't work for us. It made us both crazy.
It's hard.
It's
hard to sit outside the door and hear your child scream.
Yeah.
On the other side of the wall.
I mean, to me, when you hear a baby crying, it's like worse than nails on a chalkboard. There's nothing worse to me, and so it doesn't work for us. So, we kind of had a conversation after that initial time, because then even after you sleep train, then you have to do it again when they get sick or they have, something that comes up, they're getting teeth. So that was kind of when we had a conversation, and I was just saying, this is making me uncomfortable. I don't like it. And he said the same thing. So I think being really honest and kind of open about kind of what works for you. I think the real parenting kind of comes into play, as your child is maybe approaching, 8, 9, 10 months, a year, and then it continues to change. And it's not something, so much of what you think in life is just like kind of a straight line, but parenting is kind of zigzagged. You go through different changes, things evolve, things happen to you in life. Like my husband just lost his grandma. All those things might kind of change what your thoughts are, what your philosophies are, and that's okay. So I think you just need to have a conversation with your spouse when you're both not tired, and it doesn't have to be something where you sit down, but you can be taking a walk or making coffee one day and just say, hey, what do you think about this?
My life as a dad.
Sponsored by Daddy & Company, the perfect gifts for dad. Get 15% off your next purchase at daddyandcompany.com using promo code MLAAD15.